Hello, everyone. Welcome to the VS Code live stream. My name is Olivia. I'm an advocate on the VS Code team. I'm very excited to be here with you all today. If you are new to the VS Code live streams, we have these once or twice a week. Really great opportunity to see a bunch of different product demos, talk to different guests, and it's really an interactive time. So just to kick things off, chat, thank you so much for being here. Let me know where you're watching from and what questions you might have for our guests today. All throughout the session, I'll be checking the comments so we can ask questions directly to our guest, Rob, today. So again, a really great chance to get your questions answered and also just be a part of the demo as well. So with that, I will go ahead and bring our guest on, Rob. Hey, Rob.
Hello.
How's it going?
That's good. It's good.
Thanks for being here. I know we had you on, what, 2 weeks ago now?
Yeah,
to
2 weeks
do like
ago.
a little teaser of your extension you're going to be showing today. Yes. And people were excited to have you on for a whole dedicated live stream. So yeah, can you kick us off just letting us know a little bit about yourself and what you'll be showing today?
Sure. Hey, I'm Rob. I'm an engineer on the PostgreSQL team here at Microsoft on the Azure Postgres team. And I work on developer experience and AI tooling. Worked on the VS Code extension, particularly driving the Copilot integration, which I'm very excited to show off today.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, this extension has like really captured the minds of a lot of people. Like I know the second it was announced, like it was viral and people are very excited. So I know there's been a lot of people already trying it out. And so I think everyone would love to just kind of see a demo, see what you can do with it. And I'm sure there are a lot of features that people haven't even realized yet, even if they already are using it.
Totally. Yeah. Happy to show it off.
Cool. Should we bring up your screen, dive into some demos?
Sure. Yeah. And I'll give a little bit of context of like the extension and why we built it. I'm actually going to borrow from my colleague Matt's Posette talk, which I recommend you watching. He goes over a lot of the features that I'll show today, but some a little more in depth. When I wake up in the morning and I go to my computer to work, I like open my email, I open Teams, and I open VS Code. And I don't even know like what I'm doing that day, but that's like sort of where I live, right? And so because VS Code's like where I live day to day as an engineer, I kind of want everything to be in VS Code. And with like the awesome extension capabilities of VS Code, like that's possible as long as people build extensions. So that's what we did for Postgres to try to give that experience of managing databases, working with databases, but directly in VS Code in a really integrated workflow for developers, but also DBAs that are looking to leverage the VS Code ecosystem and all the cool things like Copilot in their work. Yeah, it's really exciting. So we released this, I guess, first release. Let me. It's updated recently with a pre-release, but it was last month, and we're at 100K installs. So really excited that people are excited to check it out, and definitely encourage you to go to extensions, look for this awesome blue elephant that our colleague and engineer on the team built this logo.
I love this because my son right now is really into elephants. And so anytime he sees me with VS Code open and I have that in my sidebar, he just immediately goes, and so it's like top notch right now.
That's so awesome. Yeah, that's so great.
But I love like you kind of setting the stage too, being like, okay, you kind of live in these different applications in VS Code, and like how can you bring that into one like central home, right? So like bring all your tools that you want into one place. So I love that kind of setting the stage of why you even want to use this, and the reason to have this extension. It wasn't just for the sake of slapping Postgres on the name of something else. Like it was to actually have kind of like bring more of your things into your home.
Totally. Yeah. And there's like great tooling. I mean, Postgres has been around forever. Actually, I was on a team. I joined Microsoft in 2020, and I was on a team building out a geospatial data platform called the Planetary Computer. You can kind of look that up. It's got a cool map to see like satellite, open data set satellite imagery. Has like millions and millions, tens of millions of geospatial assets. And we built that on top of Azure Postgres. And it was kind of like the part of the infrastructure that really kind of just worked. It was amazing. I mean, there's a lot of tuning that goes into it. There's a lot of like capability that you need to like specifically use. We created a sort of extension to work with a geospatial standard. But anyway, when I moved to Postgres, the Postgres team late last year just like learned a lot about, Postgres and how it's been around since the 80s. It was
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, it's open source in 1994.
No way.
Yeah, so it has been around. Like it's such an interesting, way that it moved from UC Berkeley as a research project to like this, community-driven database, and now it's like, what powers OpenAI. They had a talk at POSET where they talked about how they have like one writer database and 40 read replicas on Azure, handling millions of queries per second, for ChatGPT. There's plenty of huge organizations that are using that. And yeah, I think another aspect of Postgres that's really interesting to me is that it's all kind of based on a mailing list. Like all the development sort of happens, all the design discussions happen on a mailing list. And what that does is create like a huge paper trail back to the 90s. I don't know how far you can actually go, but for LLMs that are learning stuff from reading the internet, it just has all of that context. It has, it's sort of like learn the deep internals of Postgres with all the open source tools and ecosystems. So it's really good at understanding and knowing Postgres. And we'll see like it work with the Copilot stuff later when I demo it. But I think that's a really interesting aspect of Postgres. It's like, because of that paper trail, it's like really good for LLM usage.
That's super interesting. Now I want to like go and see how far back I can dive into this.
Use deep research to like, what's the first one?
Yeah, exactly.
Or if somebody in the chat can find that and let us know, what's the earliest Postgres like mailing list thing you can find.
Drop it in the chat.
Cool. So I can start showing the extension, our awesome elephant. What was the noise? And so you'll have to forgive me. This is a very small window, just so that y'all can see it. So bear with me if I have trouble kind of seeing things. Let me expand this out. So we have this connection manager here. So this thing in the sidebar like allows you to see query history, allow you to manage your various connections, have these groups, right? So we can create, server groups that let you organize your, databases and database servers in a sane way. We can create a new connection, connect via various parameters that you can input here. One thing that we do support is Entra authentication. There's my email, so hit me up.
You want that elsewhere.
Whoops. I don't have like live blurring. I can do that in Camtasia, but and you could also do connection strings. This is really interesting dialogue because you can kind of put whatever, like you can put P-SQL connection, you can put try it out. If you have like something that states the parameters of a Postgres connection, throw it in there. It probably can parse it out. And then you could also browse Azure if you are connected to Azure and kind of find your databases that way, which is really convenient. Yeah.
Do you need the Azure extension installed for that, or you can just have this extension installed and it will kind of...
You can just have this extension. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, and then so that's for creating a new connection. You can create a new server. So right now we're just supporting the Docker, so you have to have Docker installed. But it has this little page to talk about why you would want to do this, and it opens up terminal. Let me go like this, and it just checks if you have Docker installed, and then make sure it's running. And if all that's good, you can go ahead and create the connection name. So let's say VS Code Live.
You don't really need to know like a ton about Docker or anything for this. You just need to have it running.
Nope, I just have that. I'll just put a password, save that. There's a lot of defaults, and then say create, and then do. So now it's pulling Postgres latest. This is actually pulling the image from Docker Hub.
Okay.
And then it will spin one up, and then I can connect to it.
I know, I feel like there should be an extension or like even a built-in feature that's just like as your terminal's running, it just like plays music or something.
Yes.
Like
Yes, I
Jeopardy
would love
music
that.
or something.
Yeah. Actually, I have to say the VS Code intro music slaps. Like, I don't know where
Doesn't
y'all like where you getting that music, but I'm like,
when our editor
yeah.
put that together, we're like, wait, this is good. We seem so legit right now.
Yeah, it's so good. So you can see VS Code Live, like we have this database, just an empty database, but we can go and explore it. So this is the Object Explorer. If you've worked with databases, database like IDs, this should be very familiar. You see the server, the database, and then the various schemas and the public schemas. You can see the tables, of which there are none. So I'm going to put that away for a second, and we might go back to this if we want to do some like live agent mode schema design. But for now, I'm going to go to this Azure Flex Dev. So this is a flexible server. Azure Flexible Server that I have has a bunch of sort of sample databases. And let's go to Postgres Air. Oh no, the connection. Let me just reconnect. There we go, Postgres Air. That's interesting. Look at maybe a table.
There's a way that you're basically plugging it in and unplugging and plugging it back in, right?
Yes, yeah, that can happen.
Yeah.
It actually has a bunch of logic to prevent that. So I'm actually team. Let's make a book report about that. And in all honesty, like if you experience stuff, one thing I didn't mention is that I'm on the pre-release version. We were going to have a release cycle of, trying to do like major releases every month, and then 2 weeks before do a pre-release. So if you say, give me the pre-release versions, you can help us test the release. So we'll have a release in a little bit here, like a general release. And then we have a GitHub repository that has issues and discussions, and please let us know if things aren't working. We try to be responsive on there and have conversations, and really appreciate any feedback we get. So
cool. We'll share the link to that repo too, so people know where to.
Awesome. Cool. So I'm gonna do a select top 1000, which is a very common thing to do, and you just kind of are able to see this results viewer. Again, small window. So that repository AdventureWorks is a different thing. That's a database that I'm going to be working with in a little bit. But the repository for the discussions and stuff is Microsoft /VS Code -PGSQL. Just to do that. Cool. So I have this results viewer. I can open it in a new tab if I want, because it's VS Code, and you can pop things out into a new window. I can move into a new window even and keep working. And then, let me actually move this over, and we can kind of see, things like filtering work nicely. We can export to JSON. So like, I can actually, export my results. And then because I'm in VS Code, all of a sudden it opens up in an editor and now I'm in JSON land. Like that's one of the things that I love about this being integrated into VS Code is that the workflow of like, I'm looking at a database, I'm working with my database, and now I'm doing stuff with files and code files and all these things. It's just like seamless.
Right. It's not like, oh, go find the application to open this in and okay, now I've locked that window. Where is it? It's just all right there. Yeah.
Totally. And we have some IntelliSense stuff. So I can do like count star from, Postgres air dot, and then see like all of my tables. So there's, some IntelliSense to help you write your queries. There's like formatting in the editor. Also, you can do things like connect with pSQL. So pSQL is another open source tool that is super useful to use, and this opens up a terminal that connects to the database, which works like this is an Entra ID connection, which requires getting a token. It's like sort of a token based auth flow, but which can be a little bit tricky on the command line. But this lets you just kind of like drop into a pSQL shell immediately and do things like this.
So lots of different options depending on how you have it set up.
Yeah, and we're in a different schema, so. But anyway, right. Go away. Yeah, we're. See ya. Okay. Cool. Yeah, and then another kind of cool feature that I really like and use a lot is this visualize schema, and this is so this is really cool. There's like some interaction to it, but just like understanding the structure of a database is like very useful, and so I'll generally like visualize it, kind of get a sense of the connections between the tables and things like that. Yeah.
And this is just all automatically generated from that schema. Like as soon as you connect, it pulls in the schema and then generates based off all the relationships there.
Yep. Yeah. So when you say visualize, it will pull the schema at that point. You can also refresh it if you update the schema out of band, and this will just like refetch all of that stuff. With the Copilot,
edit this at all? Like if you're like a visual person, you're like, wait, I actually want this relationship to change. And you do that, and then it like goes back.
That is on the roadmap.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. So schema editor is kind of the next step of this.
Awesome.
And we're hoping to get that in not too far from now.
Cool.
Yeah, cool. Okay. And then so that's sort of like database IDE stuff. A lot of sort of tooling does that, and I use that a lot. What I use more is honestly the Copilot stuff. I just kind of chat with my databases more than anything. And so when we were developing the Copilot integration, which started development this year, agent mode wasn't available yet. So we made a chat participant in ask mode, which eventually became ask mode. So I can go ahead and say chat with this database. It opens up an editor that is connected. Oh, another kind of cool thing is this like lens, this code lens that lets you, actually, let me show that real quick. It'll say disconnected if it's disconnected, and then you can click on it, connect to any of your things. And then if you're on a database, right, because you have the server and then you have the database, so I can actually switch databases if I want, and then that will show in that little code lens thing.
Oh, that's really nice. So you're not like confused, like, oh crap, which one am I?
Yeah, that was one of the things where like, how do we make sure that folks know what they're working with? And this is nice, clever solution. So this I can claim that I made this logo, but I did it with AI, of course.
So I love it.
So, it's like, give me a cute elephant that has
elephants.
Yeah. I honestly, like, one of the few things I'm disappointed with like the shift to agent mode is that I don't get to see this little guy.
You don't get your own cool little icon. Yeah.
Yeah. So feature request, somehow that shows up. I'm like,
icon for all tools.
Totally. Yeah, and so this is like kind of an interesting setup where, VS Code API provides language model tools, not tools, like language model like completion APIs to extensions to go and use. And so what this is actually doing is taking your query, adding some system prompt, adding tools that actually uses semantic kernel on the back end. There's a language server that runs separate from the extension process that communicates with the extension through the language server protocol. And this is like, implementation details that like I'm get really excited about. So if there's anybody that's, watching that's like interested in that stuff,
let us know if you want a little deep dive on that.
Yeah. So that like language server calls back into the TypeScript VS Code extension and then uses the APIs. But really it means that, we have a lot of control over like what LLM calls are made, and a lot of system prompting. So it's kind of talking more directly with like a chatbot that we've crafted. And so it's good at like, like having conversations with the database, like what is in this database is like a pretty easy question. Oh, I'm in agent mode.
Oh yeah, it defaults.
Okay, this is yeah. I do make the API call to change it to ask mode, but
okay,
apparently that's not working.
That's interesting. No, this is good to see too. Like from my like VS Code product perspective, it's like it's automatically going to agent. So yeah.
Yeah, it says like open chat with like ask mode specifically. Yeah. And that is interesting. Like I actually find that if I shift it to ask mode and then I will be like, hey, go do this stuff, and then it goes and does a bunch of stuff, but then like outputs it into the chat. I'm like, oh, I'm in ask mode. I gotta switch to agent mode. Yeah. What's in this database?
Which just while Rob's typing, for people who maybe aren't quite as familiar with all the different modes in VS Code yet, ask mode is kind of, as Rob was saying, like that very much like more chatbot personality. Like you're just asking things and you get a response. Like no edits are being made, nothing's being run. Whereas agent's going to be more that autonomous mode. And so you can ask the same question and it will actually go and edit your code. It will run terminal commands if applicable. It will run different tools, which I'm sure Rob's going to show. So just a little laying the foundation there if y'all are confused about what are these different modes you're talking about.
Yep. Cool. So yeah, it pulls the schema, like, that's really off of one, function call that I made to pull the entire schema, and then, understands the entire database in a really great way and can, explain what it is. We have some sort of pre-canned prompts that I like to use. So for instance, don't save. This is a query that I can't even get on the screen. Yeah, that's like pretty complicated. If I were sort of new to this, database, I don't know what it does.
I mean, yeah, this kind of gives me anxiety looking at this. I'm like, what is happening?
Yeah, this multi-level. So I can actually say, I can't fit it on the screen. A lot of context on you. Okay, so this PostgreSQL Copilot, right? We have explain query, rewrite query, and analyze query performance. So I'm just going to go ahead and say rewrite query, right? So there's a little elephant guy pops up in ask mode. Good. Oh, I am on the wrong connection.
Oh,
thank you for telling me that.
Thanks,
yeah. Yeah. let me first, let me stop you there. Thank you for that. Very helpful.
I always said to you, I'm like, I'm going to stop you right there.
All right, let's switch back. I switched back. Perfect. I like how it matches my energy.
And then we do have, while this is loading, a question that hopefully you can answer. For Meta says, is it able to find data? For example, does a user have any pending orders? Would it be able to fetch it and return the result?
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. And I'm wondering, I'll jump to the next database we're going to work with that actually has orders and customers, and like we can try to see if, I don't know if it represents like pending orders, but we can ask it and try to,
Cool.
figure that out. So it rewrote this query. It explains why it's, why it's a better, it does a performance analysis.
Oh, that's cool.
985 times faster. Thank you. And this is stuff like, if I saw this query in my code base, I'd be like, I don't want to touch this because I don't know.
No, I know, because you're like, there's so many nests. You're like, what if I touch this one thing and then that messes everything else up? Yeah, and I feel like so many people can relate to that, right? Where you're just like in a code base and seeing all this old code, and you're like, I know this needs to be refactored, but I'm so scared to touch it.
Yeah, I just don't understand. And so now with Copilot, it's like, okay, I can very quickly get up to speed, which is like one of my primary uses for Copilot. But yeah, that didn't edit the script. Agent mode can. So yeah, I'm interested in that question. So excuse me. Let's go to AdventureWorks. So connect in agent mode now. It did switch to agent mode. Great. And well, let me first just kind of show this. Like, so if I say like visualize the schema, this is sort of exemplifying why we integrated with the language model tool API instead of an MCP server. I'm not sure how to do this with an MCP server in VS Code, is like actually have it like call extension methods and like do like deep interaction. So that I really like that, like deep integration where you can actually open up windows, it can open up scripts, it can like leverage all the connections that you have in your connection list instead of having to manage that separately.
Well, it's also really nice. I mean, it just helps so much with discoverability too, because I mean, people might not know that they can right click and then go to visualize schema. Like they might never find that feature, and here you can just be like, oh hey, do you think you could just visualize this? It's like,
totally.
The extension learn does that. Like pop it open.
Yeah, for sure. So you can see this AdventureWorks. So this is like a sample database that comes from MS SQL, and then I did some work based off of somebody's repository. Thank you, which converts it to PostgreSQL, and that's like that AdventureWorks link. There's some SQL files that you can run and explore this database. It's really like interesting database to work with. But you can see it's like super complex. Like I don't even know what's going on here. But that's, I connected with agent mode and I can start, asking questions here. And so what was the question? Are there
able to find data? For example, does a user have any pending orders?
Are there any customers in the database that have pending orders? How does this database represent, order flow and like pending status, or does it not? That's a jumble of words, but I bet it'll do a good job. All right, so it is fetching the schema, and this is one of the tools that I've already kind of said, like, allow always. There's some tools that like, it can actually modify the database. So it asks for confirmation. I don't recommend, just saying like, always do this, but that's where the like, allow in the session, option is really nice, because if you're doing like schema design, which maybe time permitted we'll get into, you don't want to have to confirm over and over again. So let's just say, okay, I'm connected to a development database,
Right.
like just, do your thing. Cool. Let me fix the query structure. So that's another thing that's really great about agent mode. And also ask mode will do this because it does do iterative tool calling. If it sees an error in what it does, it kind of like goes and fixes itself. Something else I'll point out is that all of these queries that it's running are in the query history.
Oh, nice.
So I can actually like, open this query and see what it did, and then like I could run this and kind of see the error and then like see its new version, right? So you can really learn a lot about, in all of these are so many queries.
Yeah.
So if you're like let me learn more about like the SQL and like how it's approaching exploring this database, you can just review this stuff and have some like explainability, but also learn a lot about SQL.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. Is I feel like a lot of times, you hear people be like, "Oh, I'm scared AI is gonna like take out the learning process," right? But the fact that it's just a tool, right, that's surfacing these and makes it, you didn't have to come up with these queries all on your own. You can go back and look through the history, and you can take that step on your own to learn and really dig under the hood. And that's 100% my recommendation for anyone. Don't just rely on it. And Rob, you mentioned earlier, like, don't just like let it run queries, like, or that actually change the database. Actually look at what it's doing, inspect what's happening. And so I love that you're showing how people can get to that surfaced information.
Totally. Yeah. And it is interesting with the, Copilot AI general, like you can learn, you really have to put in the effort. You have to be like, I'm not going to just let this do it and then say, okay, this is fine. And the amount of times that I've kind of lazily done that and gotten bitten by it, and like all of a sudden I've now generated more code than I could have in a day, like ever, but something's wrong and it can't quite figure it out. I'm like, oh no, I have to be the one to figure this out. Really making sure you're following what it's doing and directing what it's doing is like a skill set that I feel myself having to really learn.
Well, it's a new muscle, right? To like go against that like path of least resistance.
Totally. And asking it to do like things in steps and then write documents about what it did and actually review those documents, like a lot of work. So yeah, not an easy button necessarily. Okay, let's look at this. Analysis, order flow, and pending status. So there's a sales order that has a status, purchase orders, shopping cart items. This is like, answer to your question. How? No, all customer sales have been shipped. That's great. There's 3 very cold cart items from 2013.
Oh.
So there's abandoned customer sessions that actually, that's so interesting. And it's able to represent the statuses. How does it work? So like, to look at that schema, to try to like look at the SQL or like run queries and try to understand all of this, I just like wouldn't do it. I feel like I'm gonna walk away. But now it's like, oh, I can like really like, kind of understand.
Right, abstract it out. Like you don't have to be nitty gritty into there. You can get the base level of what's going on, right?
But like also this is a lot of output and I just kind of skimmed it. So I don't really have an understanding yet. You have to like, it's just like so much content to read. I feel like reading comprehension is such a skill set that's going to be so important.
Yeah.
So I don't know if we have like other questions about this database that we can try to,
I don't see any questions right now, but chat, definitely let us know what you want to see. Like this is an interactive session. If you have any queries you want us to run, anything you want us to ask agent mode, definitely drop it in and I'll make sure we cover it.
Yeah. One thing that's kind of interesting is like this person business entity. Like, what is that? So I'm going to ask about that. What's the person table? how does, how are people represented in this database? And then I'm just going to ask it to be like, can you write a .d2 diagram of the related table structures that will help me understand? We've got some feature requests around the schema viewer to be able to sort of like filter and search and stuff, which I think is like really smart. Because I kind of want to be able to like zero in on this giant schema. Like I can also ask Copilot to generate diagrams. That's something that I've been doing a lot recently. There's a D2 diagramming extension, which again, it's like I get to live in VS Code because people write extensions and I don't have to like go to some other diagramming tool. And I have it like when I'm doing design thinking, like architecture, like designing. I have a whole VS Code workspace that's just high level design documents about big features that I'm working on, and I have it write diagrams of like Azure infrastructure, of like things like this. So that's kind of a tip that I have. Use diagramming as a way to like do that sort of comprehension of like, what is this? Let's think through this. Let's change the diagram in this way. Yeah, so it's working on it.
There is one clarifying question about if this uses MCP or not.
Yeah, so it does not. There's sort of two ways to integrate with VS Code agent mode. There's MCP servers, which if you haven't seen the sort of how to integrate with agent mode live stream that was done 2 weeks ago, I recommend watching that. And most of the guests on there, it was like this epic like 3-hour long session, have MCP servers, and that's a way to integrate with VS Code, both like local MCP servers, and then like in the live stream it was like released that like OAuth was supported, and like the GitHub MCP server was could do a remote MCP server and authenticate, which was really cool. Anyway, and so MCP is a great way to like have an interface that can integrate with VS Code, integrate with other tools that can speak that language. And so that's one way. And then the other way is VS Code provides extensions with a set of APIs. And that's how like extensions, can do stuff with the editor and do all sorts of things. And one of those APIs is the language model tool API, which really looks a lot like MCP. Like you give it a definition that is like the tools, that looks a lot like the MCP tool schema. But you can register with VS Code and then have the tools defined in the TypeScript of VS Code, and then have like the entire VS Code API available to you. The way we implement it is so like we have the tools in TypeScript, our TypeScript extension that call into our language server, but do things on both sides. Like it's a much deeper integration. And that's why I can like open up visualizations. I can, leverage the connections that you set up in our extension, right? Because that's actually a huge benefit, to be able to manage your extensions in one place. And then in order for an MCP server to like actually connect with the databases, you'd have to kind of communicate passwords and stuff and connection configuration across. We don't have to do that. We use VS Code's like secret store and can just use the tools defined in VS Code to like leverage all of that. So long answer to your question. No, we're not using MCP servers. It's something that we're like looking at supporting in the future, but like our extension is pretty VS Code specific. So we're trying to integrate fully with that.
Totally. No, thank you so much for that context. I think it's easy to kind of like get lost. Like, okay, what is MCP? What is this? Does everything do? It's like, there's other ways that you can do things. And I think it's really cool to hear how y'all's team approached this and was like, okay, there are a couple ways we could do this, and you went the extension API route. And I mean, if you, to the layperson, you don't really even need to necessarily know that, other than the initial configuration. Do you configure an MCP server? Do you install the extension? Because it all results in basically tools that are being called in agent mode. So at that point, it's like once you get that initial configuration or extension installed, it's just these tools that are available right at your fingertips in agent mode.
Yeah, for sure. And then I think now VS Code supports the full MCP spec. So there's like the prompts and resources that I haven't looked at the newest versions of the language model tools, but I'm not sure those are supported. So I think like there's going to be reasons to do both, basically.
Totally.
Okay, well, this diagram didn't work. I don't know why.
Because it's a live demo.
Yeah, but this happens. Like sometimes it also says the diagram rendering gives me this, and this is an interesting point because it's like the agent can't see this because it's like not, if this D2 extension had a language model tool API that the agent could just use and then see these errors, it would just correct itself. But I have to like shovel that in and be like, hey, it didn't work.
Okay,
yeah, because this is just like this extension that says
so
like,
it can't really do the like self-iterating of like, oh wait, I see there's an error because it doesn't. Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, I see. And now it's like, oh, I see the issue, and it would have just like done that itself. So I find that really interesting. It's just like with these LLMs, it's like you gotta like, how do we make it see and be able to see its problems, and then it can just iterate and
and in like all these different formats and all these different ways, right?
Yeah. That's another sort of interesting thing about the language model tool API is that we can kind of scrape information about the VS Code like state and ship it off to the tool in a way that I think might be a little more difficult to do with MCP. But I'm interested if anybody has ways of like, oh, here's how we're doing deep integrations with UIs with MCP. Let's talk. I'm interested.
Definitely doing something.
It's doing something. It looks like it's kind of doing something over and over again, which is not fun. You can do it. Yay. Sometimes like I just feel like it's just feel like a LLM cheerleader. Like, come on, buddy. All right, so I'm gonna close this. I'm gonna it's like a fitness instructor. Okay. Does this help me understand anything? I don't know. It looks cool.
I mean, so there's that even generated this.
Yeah, so it's like person business entity connects to person details, email address. This is really really complicated. This is a very complicated schema, which is, so one follow-up question I might have is like, why is this, like, what's the benefit of having something that's so complicated?
That need to be this complicated.
Yeah, but I'm going to zero in here on this like demographics XML on person.person. So like I said, this comes from a export of an MS SQL sample database, and it's like we're storing XML, but something that's more. Well, let me ask it. I see there's XML columns on the person.person table. What's a better way to store that in Postgres? And this now becomes like this iteration of design. I'm like, I have a specific question about this. I could have done that in ask mode. I love when it's like it's like, you're doing great. I know that it's just telling me that, but I get a little hit of dopamine. I'm like, yeah, that was a great question.
You're right. You have so much access to information, and you think that was a great question.
Yeah. Like at the list of all the questions I've seen, right? So it says JSON B recommended, and it starts to talk about like, yeah, you can index it, you can do all of this stuff. So it knows that, it read the XML structure. It tells me what the JSON should look like. Create a dedicated table. I mean, just like all of this stuff that, we could go chase for hours. I'm looking at the clock and we're at 45-minute mark.
Oh man.
But yeah, I could just one thing I might try to do. Well, let me just pause here and say, are there any questions, or should we keep chasing this? I don't know. What are people feeling?
I think let's keep chasing it. But chat, let me know if you want to do something
awesome
else.
Yeah, so it gives me kind of this like migration strategy, which is cool. So one thing I'll do is, chat is like a fine way to like read this stuff, but sometimes I just like need documents to kind of like mull over things. So like let's create a migration plan document that I can review before moving forward.
Well, and I actually like that approach too, because obviously, at Microsoft we make a lot of docs, so it's nice too. Like if you like had like something that you could share out in like tweak and kind of have more of this shareable format, that would make sense to
Totally.
not just people looking at chat in VS Code.
To use JSON B. Yeah, absolutely. And this is that type of like piecemeal working with Copilot that I like to do, where I'm learning, and it's like I like to do. I've been doing this, these are all very new workflows. It's like reinventing your workflow to use all of this awesome tooling. But yeah, trying to let me do a document, let's iterate on the document. And now I take that document, I put it into a prompt file, and I say, hey, here's this like design document. The first prompt file will be like, does this, like, go look at the code base or go look at the context of everything. And like, does this make sense? Can you like find any issues with this or things I haven't considered? And then take that, and then, modify the document, put that into another prompt file, and then say, okay, go do it.
That's awesome. Yeah, kind of like iterating over. And I love you sharing these workflows because I think, especially if you're not someone who uses agent mode a lot or AI features in general, like you might just be like, oh, it helps me write code. And I'm like, yes, it does. But there's so many other things that you can really push its boundaries to do and to bring into so many of your different workflows. So I think it's really beneficial to hear how you are using this and using it to refine itself and kind of think about how long it would take you to do something like that before. Like you'd have to like go and like manually like write all that out and then like send it out to a bunch of review to be like, hey, did I miss anything? And now it's like you can skip a lot of those steps or shorten a lot of those steps now.
Totally. Yeah. And then like you had mentioned, kind of creating that artifact. I've actually started checking in prompt files to projects, to, especially like projects that I am an outside contributor to, or like not part of the core team, just saying like, here's what I did. Like I used agent mode, full transparency. Here's what I did. So you could actually review the inputs. And if there's anything wrong there, or just to like understand, like, who's this person contributing this code base? Like, what are they doing? Like, this is what I'm doing. Yeah. So let's see. XML column usage. Microsoft SQL Server style individuals. What does that mean? Oop. Yeah, I'm curious about this. I want to like ask about that, but I'm gonna not right now. So here's the XML structure. And this is like, yeah, that's an example of like, oh, I'm gonna learn about MS SQL just by like asking questions about this and being curious. I think that's another like Copilot thing. It's just like you gotta read, you gotta be curious. Make sure
I almost feel like there used to sometimes be like, it's almost like a punishment for being curious because like, oh man, I have to go track down like 10,000 different sources to find something.
Totally.
And now it's like, no, just try it and see what happens.
Totally, yeah. And then it's like, oh, but if you, now that you're able to do this much more work, you still have to bottom out on understanding what all that work is. So it's like, yeah, it's really interesting. Okay. I would read this more closely if I were actually doing this, but I'm just gonna say YOLO. All right.
And there is a question in the chat asking if all models support interaction with this extension, and then asking about how this works with ask mode as well, which I think you touched on a little bit at the start.
Yeah, that's a great question. So with ask mode, it only works with models. So it'll respect the model selector, and it'll only work with models that support tool calling. There was one model that actually had an issue that I saw like in a VS Code Copilot repository where it was like saying like not responding or like had another issue, but maybe that's fixed by now. So, but generally, if the model supports tool calling in ask mode, it will work. So you can use anything you want. I've been using Claude Sonnet 4, which has been really great in agent mode. But I'll switch over to like 4.1, GPT 4.1 for like more scope things because Claude can get kind of chatty and try to do. Even I'm like, we're gonna do this step by step. Do this. It's like it'll just be like, I'm done. Like I did it all. It's like, okay, calm down. But yeah, and in ask mode, if you select a model that doesn't have support tool calling, it'll tell you. And then with agent mode, all of the models that are in that agent mode dropdown do support tool calling, so it works. It works with that. And really, like the difference between ask mode, where our extension is actually doing LLM calls, like we like submit the prompt and the history and the system prompt and all that to the LLM and are like more in control of the LLM usage. With agent mode, either an MCP server or an extension is just providing tools. So there's no control over like the LLMs are doing what the LLMs are doing. Here's how to call my tool. Here's what the results are going to look like. Here's descriptions about it. So yeah, it should work with any of those because agent mode works with any of those. Cool. All right. So I'm going to copy this and then I'm going to do new prompt file, put it in prompts and say demographic column XML conversion. I'm just like, can Copilot help me name stuff like that?
Oh my gosh, I know.
It's just like getting so lazy about everything. I'm like, I don't know, give me a good name.
My favorite
right.
thing that I'm lazy about that I get Copilot to do is generate commit messages because I'm like, I cannot be bothered to come up with something for this.
yeah. Could you just do this, review this? I know, I do that too. Cool. So I'm going to say like below is an implementation plan for migrating an XML column to JSONB. I probably didn't have to say all that. Implement this. Should be reviewed and approved by business. And I love like some of this.
Yeah.
Flowery. All right. Yes, boss.
His own disclaimer.
Yeah. So cool. So now I have this, and this is something I can commit to the repository when I, make my PR, and it's just like, again, with the estimated durations, I'll make it like, do work plans, and it'll be like week 1 and 2, week 3 and 4. I'm like, I don't got that kind of time. Like this, your estimated durations are not.
Yeah.
Especially because you're going to be doing the work. So with the prompt files, you can run prompt in new chat or current chat. I'm going to run it in a new chat and see what happens. So it's pausing because it's asking me about pending edits. This is something that a little bit of feedback has been kind of, I don't know why okay. It's running it apparently in the existing chat. So keeping these edits, but this like keep and undo thing, I forget to do it. And actually yesterday I lost a bunch of work because it just like undid. I had to restart VS Code for another reason. And like, it just like I'm just saying, keep pressing keep. Like if you're using agent mode, you can get in conversations that are really long, but just like use git, commit stuff, press keep, because when the agent mode code goes away and you have to like look through the thread and be like, what did you, it's
there's a big, that's a big piece of feedback. Is like, one, like what does keep and undo even mean necessarily? And then two, like, do I need to be clicking it? Like, what does that mean? So things like that, like checkpoints, like those are very much all on the team's radar. And to your point, right?
Awesome.
Like, you don't want to have to like lose whatever
like,
vibe you were in, and then it just goes away. That's
totally. And I'm like, I was barely paying attention. Like, what did you do?
Yeah.
That's another thing about like making sure you're on top of it, because like if something goes wrong and some piece of it goes away, you're like, how do I replace that?
I think
okay.
a lot what I've seen some people do too is be like at a certain point, like tell the agent to commit changes too, and like just like go ahead and do that, so it's like they're already getting saved and commit.
That's a great I was thinking about that as I was doing it. Even, you know, I bet you could put into like the Copilot instructions like, hey, every once in a while, like tell me to commit stuff.
Right. Yeah.
And I actually looked for, I was like, is there a Git? I know there's GitHub FTP server, or they're like Git agent tools. And I'm like, oh, I could just run terminal commands. So
right. Yeah. Sometimes I feel like we've, like, at least for me, like, I get so used to like GUIs and things like that, and then I'm like, wait, hold on, I'm really like, this is just underlying like a terminal. Like, I can just use the terminal too for this.
Yeah, and it's really good at that. Like, it'll, when I'm working in Python projects, it'll write test code, like throw away test code, but then like run it in the terminal, but like, you know, -C, and then write a whole script to go and like check something. I'm like, oh, that's something that I would never do myself, because it just takes so much to write throwaway code,
right,
to just like go check something you know, specific, but it takes a couple seconds. It's like, yeah, I can do that.
I'll do that. Yeah, right.
Cool. So here's an example of and this is where it's kind of getting hard to see, but sorry. So modify database. This is where I don't have it like accept, just let it do it. So if I say continue, like, you know, this should hopefully indicate to you, hey, this is about to modify the database, like actually review this. And so I can like kind of see what it's doing, and it's creating a backup table. I'm like, yeah, cool. So let me actually just allow in this session so that it'll just do it, because we're doing a modification thing and it's fine. If you're in something where you have to be more careful, like just say continue every time and like be explicit about what you allow. Cool. So this is now executing our plan. Let's see how long it takes.
Nice. Oh, it's pretty quick.
All right.
And do you mind just expanding on like that arrow so people can see what that looks like in agent mode? How
oh, sure.
Yeah, how like you can basically see like the input and the output. So you can always like go back. I know Rob showed like the query history. This is also another way, like tool call by tool call, that you can look and be like, okay, what was the actual input? What was the output? Just to get a little bit more of that surface information. Yeah,
for sure. I guess it'd be nice to like have like a little bit like a little put this into an editor formatted.
Yeah.
Just because sometimes some of the tool calls are like pretty intense. I was like, well, really I do actually want to see what it is. It seems like the migration function returns 0. Yeah, and this is an example of like, it's seeing an issue with what it did. I don't even know what it did. So I'm like I'm in an audience that's just like, cool, what?
Go fix it.
Yeah, I hope you
got it.
Figure that out.
Yeah. Yeah, I do think that's honestly like always the most mind-blowing part of agent mode to me, is when it's just like, I did this, like, oops, I messed up. Let me fix that. My bad. And then it just fixes it. And you're like, thanks.
Yeah, cool.
You're like, no worries. Everyone makes mistakes. You caught it.
Yeah, and it's like this sort of like XML. I guess this isn't doing the XML stuff, but like I don't know how to work with XML in Postgres. I've never done that. Why would I? But the fact that it can just kind of do that, and that a little bit again speaks to, you know, Postgres is so online and it's just so like ingested by the LLMs that it knows how to do all sorts of things. Like I worked with geospatial data for, over a decade, and I use PostGIS a lot. It knows how to do stuff with PostGIS that I just never figured, or like never had to do. And
Right.
That seems like a pretty niche thing. Like, PostGIS database experts are not the most widely, it's not the most widely used tool unless you're working with geospatial data, and it just like knows how to do that stuff. So it's such a leg up. Let's see how it's doing. I see the issue. Cool. Great. XPath is working. XPath. Nice. All right. The issue is that some records have minimal XML data. Yeah, that's so interesting because it like saw some sample data, it understood the structure, but then the actual data distribution is like different than what it expected. So it goes and does the thing, tries it out, sees the issue, debugs just like how I would do, except insanely fast, and then goes and fixes it. Now it's on phase 3, apparently.
And again,
I love how it's like,
yeah, it segments it out. But we were talking about this earlier, right? How like you can just blindly accept this, but really you want to stretch that muscle to actually learn what's going on. And so I feel like this is really helpful tool too. If you're like, I don't even know where to start with this. Like you literally can see how AI is chunking it up into steps, and it can kind of again teach you, okay, so that is how I should have approached that. Like those are the steps that need to do that. So,
yes.
So that's all very helpful output to do to observe as well.
Yeah. Copilot can turn you into a lazy engineer, or it can turn your like engineering education into just like a super fast track.
100x. Yeah.
Oh, this is how, I should have put it exactly what you said. I love that.
Yeah. And if you do let it make you a lazy engineer, I think you said this earlier, Rob, that it will bite you. Maybe not immediately, but it will eventually.
Yeah, I really think so. There's some misconception about like what you can now do with agent mode, and it's like, oh, here's this like large feature, I can just assign this to a junior engineer and like try to just make it work, and then you're in a corner, and it's like you need to understand why this is wrong, or you need to understand why it has to not be this way. It has to be designed in this different way for like step 5. And you really have to, it allows you this like creativity. It allows you this sort of like, oh, I'm imagining doing this and I can't do it, but now I can. I'm so empowered to do these things. But you really have to also work on your like core understanding of how software should work, so that you're doing it right. Because it can only see this, the LLM's just like, yeah, I'll do a really good job at this specific thing. But if your job is to like, okay, how is that going to work with this like broader system?
Right.
You need to understand the broader system and how things integrate.
Once we get through this, there is a question in the chat asking, how would you create or alter a new table or trigger? Is there any UI or templates for that? Or do you have to write scripts yourself from scratch to alter schema?
To alter schema is specifically in like agent mode stuff, or I guess I'll maybe answer in that particular way. Because if you're that Docker image or Docker container Postgres that we just created, like if you wanted to create tables with that, there is like, we're kind of like moving, say I wanted this like Postgres air count table, I could say script as create. What?
That style was so relatable. What do you mean there's
I'm very confused. I mean, that's something that has been pretty solid. So once we fix that, you can do script as create. I wonder if it's like I don't want to.
Yeah, and the follow-up to that question was without AI. So what you're about to show, like on the left-hand side, is how can you generate those scripts?
That's something's going on with the Object Explorer connections. So I'm just going to go ahead and disconnect and then connect. Cool. Yeah, so you can sort of script tables, like I was saying, as create. Let's go say error, script as create. What is going on here? This is really interesting. Slash not great. Okay, well, something that we'll have to debug.
Yeah, I always because we see this. I mean, if y'all don't know, there's VS Code Insiders, which is a kind of like the nightly build of almost the pre-release version of VS Code that you have throughout the month. And so we're always like, it's really cool. It has the latest, but kind of use at your own risk. Some things like might be broken because things are shipped so quickly. And so Rob, I feel like you're like viewing that now with like you're using the pre-release version of this extension. And so it's like sometimes things, you do that to get the latest, but then there's also on the other side the risk of, okay, something might be broken because you're getting that latest right away before it's made it into stable.
Totally, yeah. And this is like why we do pre-releases and take the time to test things. But yeah, we'll have to fix that. But that did work against this database, and yeah, so there's this create table not exist, and then it scripts it as like a table as a create, so you can sort of get some templating in that way. If you want to, like, if you have an existing table, you want to create the create statement. It's there. Also, Copilot could write this pretty easily. Yeah.
There's this is kind of a specific question, but someone in the chat said, I tried this extension a little while ago. I got an error that says tools service component could not start. This video reminded me to try the extension again. I got the same error. Is that known?
You got the same error?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this has been kind of an issue that we've been dealing with. So to explain a little bit the backstory of why that might be happening. In order to release binaries, we have to, for like security and compliance reasons at Microsoft, we have to build them on specific setups. And those specific setups have dependencies like gclib that are of a specific version. And unfortunately, because we're building at a specific version and we can't actually build at earlier versions because of this like compliance ruling, when we ship those binaries, they only work with like that gclib and up. We're working on ways to support more like older OS versions. We also don't have a builder for Windows ARM, unfortunately. So everything, I'm going to guess that maybe that's one of your situations. And if you look at the GitHub issues, like there's a lot of people reporting this, and they're on sort of like OSs, platforms that we don't currently support, and that's unfortunate. We're we want to make sure that everybody can use this extension, and so that's something that we're like, is a top priority for us, of like figuring out how to make this work on all these platforms. But that would be my guess. And if you could go to the GitHub issues, and like if there is an issue that has like more specifically your error or like your platform, or you can create a new issue, please do that. That would be really helpful, because we do want you to be able to use this extension, and it just kind of helps us understand the sort of the impact of that issue. So I apologize if that's happening to you. It's really unfortunate.
Yeah, great plug though for live feedback. The team hears you and like very much wants. That's why I love these live streams, right? It gives like a direct contact there to be like, hey, is this expected behavior? Is this what's happening? So we'll post a link again to the VS Code PGSQL repo. Definitely check that out. Use that to follow your issues, give feedback, let us know if there's any bugs. And I mean, as you just heard, Rob's on the team. They very much listen to all that feedback and want to create the best product possible.
For sure. What's the speed up we gained on this XML to JSONB version? What are some queries? Let me just say that. Yeah. So any other questions? I just was like actually curious about what this the speed up does, and I couldn't quite glean it quickly from
I don't
this.
see any right now.
Oh, actually, gender queries now run in 2 milliseconds. Cool. Yeah. So that's we've really only been working in the database. The other sort of side of using agent mode with the data, knowledge of the database context is being able to like build database driven apps. And there's an example here. Actually, I went through it in the agent mode integration live stream a little bit. But I had agent mode, build an entire like fast API based API that has SQL queries that run. It wrote all of this. I didn't write any of this code or the SQL queries, and serves out through a front end that it built. Let's see, a dashboard that lets you kind of like see all these like interesting statistics. I didn't even like specify what the dashboard should contain. Oh, it's responsive too. I didn't know that.
Nice.
That's so cool. Yeah. So this monthly sales trend and
Cool.
yeah. So like this is an example of like this dashboard didn't show any data, and I was like, hey, like this doesn't show data. Or I might have even did this simple browser tool in VS Code is so awesome because you can actually like, go add this context to the LLM and it sees what you're seeing. It can see the errors and stuff. So, but it was like, oh, this database only has like data from 2013 to 2014 or whatever. It was like getting most recent data. So it went and fixed the code for that. Yeah. So, we're at hour 12 minutes. So I don't know, we can keep hacking on this or yeah, what are you thinking?
Cool. Yeah. I mean, I kind of up to you, Rob, like if you want to keep hanging out and hacking on it some more, or if you want to wrap up and let us know, like, some final things to close out on. I'm fine to keep vibing, but I'm also want to be respectful of your time too.
Oh yeah, I do have work, don't I?
Right. I was going to say
that Easy Tools thing. I've got some good.
I feel like we probably can't take you forever.
Yeah, I mean this is so fun. Like I love this format. I love this. Look at this.
Oh, I like all the emojis they just did.
Yeah, absolutely phenomenal.
Wow.
Yeah, this is
they
like
really changed their tone a little bit there. Okay.
Yeah, 180 times faster. Wow.
This is
so
like
yeah,
you're writing your performance review to your manager.
I know.
Absolutely phenomenal improvement.
Oh yeah.
Cool. Well, yeah. Well, should we go ahead and maybe just wrap it up? Like, if there's any final things you want to show, or just like roadmaps you want to talk about, we can do a plug again for what people need to do to get this extension and give feedback and things like that.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and do that. So if you go over to the extensions, you type Postgres, look for this blue elephant. There's a number of different Postgres extensions. And ours looks like this.
It's the one by Microsoft, right?
And the one by Microsoft. Yeah, there was an extension previously that didn't have a release for like 5 or 6 years. By Microsoft, we've deprecated that, and this is like the new extension. It's and so yeah, please try it out. Let us know issues. Like go on the GitHub. This is this every sort of feedback, every sort of comment, feature request, like that's all really great stuff, and we really appreciate the communication and the help to make sure that this like works for you. So yeah, install it, give it a try. Agent mode is awesome. Agent mode plus PostgreSQL is awesome. PostgreSQL is awesome. I don't know. It's a lot of awesomeness. But yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Well, I think that that's a great note to end on. I think you mentioned this at the start. This has been out for a month now, and we've already gotten great feedback. Over 100,000 installs already, which is awesome. And we got some great questions. So chat, thanks so much for being here today and letting us know your questions. Definitely install the extension and let us know any feedback. This stream, as well as all of our other streams, are available on demand on YouTube. So if you missed anything, want to catch more of what Rob said again, it'll be available on demand right after this. And we'll also put in the show notes all these different links so you can go to them right away. But yeah, so with that then, Rob, thank you so much for being here. I'm sure we'll have you on again because, right, like I feel like I didn't even realize it's been over an hour. I feel like there's so much more that we could have gotten into. So chat, let us know if you want to see more of this, and we can have Rob back on in the future. But thank you so much for being here, Rob, and thank you, chat, for hanging out with us.
Thank you.
All right, everyone, have a great one.
We'll see you.